Hi everyone, it's Dr. Lindner. And in this short video, what we're going to do is talk a little bit about nutrition and how it relates to neurological function, especially the brain function and body function. A little bit more focus on the brain and emotions and anxiety. So one of the things that I've been seeing increase over the years with my students and patients is this feeling of anxiety or panic attacks and depression. And if we take a look at some of these nutrients, whether it be folate, which is B9, or magnesium and zinc and B6, even B3, no one really looks at their foods, right, and says, I wonder how much chromium is in this nutrient. Or, I wonder if this cereal, how much magnesium it has, and am I reaching the recommended daily allowance? And one of the problems is that most people have a very isolated type of diet where they eat the same things pretty much every single day, and it creates a pattern of either toxicity in things or deficiency in things. So let's take a look at some of these nutrients and go, well, how is it related to anxiety? So when we look at folate, for example, which is B9, and remember, I have another video on methylation, which involves B9, B12, and B6, and how those three B vitamins work very closely together to methylate. And methylation is really important for neurotransmitter function. So folate aids in the production of dopamine. And dopamine is a catecholamine that's involved with feeling good. People get a dopamine rush when they gamble. They get this dopamine rush, the feeling of joy and excitement. When people eat chocolate, they get a dopamine rush. During intimacy, there's a dopamine rush. During eating, there's a dopamine rush. And it makes a lot of these habits and needs somewhat addicting to people because they want to feel good all the time and have the reward center of their brain lit up with dopamine. So alcohol, wine, food, intimacy, all those are, especially intimacy and food, right? Those are necessities for living and for reproduction for life. So those are really tough if there's an addiction there, because you need food to survive, and to pass along your genetic information, we need to reproduce, right? So intimacy for that. But gambling and alcohol, gambling is not a necessity for living. Alcohol is not a necessity for life and living, but yet these are all addictions. Smoking increases dopamine. So we have to be really, really careful. But B9 and folate is really important for dopamine production, and that has more of like a calming effect on your overall system. Let's see what else we have here. We have choline. Well, where do we get choline from? Many people consume eggs, and people, some people, especially athletes, may say, I only have the egg white, I don't have the egg yolk. Now, the egg white is certainly higher in protein, maybe 6 grams, 8 grams of protein max. The yolk itself has all the B vitamins. It has some cholesterol, and it has choline. Now, choline with acetate or acetyl-CoA gives you acetylcholine, which is an important neurotransmitter. And low levels of choline is actually linked to also that feeling of panic or anxiety. Let's look at magnesium, which is involved in the HPA axis. The HPA is the hypothalamus, which is in your brain, pituitary in your brain, and the HPT for thyroid, the HPT axis, and the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So the adrenal glands are involved in pushing out adrenaline and noradrenaline, or epinephrine and norepinephrine. But it is associated with anxiety, if it's deficient, and even hyperreactivity, meaning you have these NMDA receptors, these N-methyl diaspartate receptors on these neuron cells. And in this channel should be magnesium. And magnesium is a natural calcium channel blocker. So we have calcium trying to influx its way in, and magnesium is the doorman saying, no more, no more. We don't need any more calcium. So magnesium is like a natural calcium channel blocker. So if you're deficient in magnesium, you get all this calcium, you get this neural excitability. So we want to make sure that you're not deficient in magnesium. It's a relaxant. A lot of people take it at night to help them sleep. Women know about this very well because during that time of month, during menstruation, sometimes the myometrium, the smooth muscle layer, can be painful when it contracts. So it generates some discomfort, and women crave chocolate during that time of month. So chocolate is rich in magnesium, which is a natural muscle relaxer because it blocks calcium from influxing. Let's look at zinc. Zinc is so important. I remember I listened to a physician who I think is in his early 90s now. I listened to him a few months ago. He's the Prasad is his name, Dr. Prasad. He discovered zinc as an essential mineral. And during the pandemic, the way he discovered zinc as an essential mineral, a great story. He was doing research in Egypt, and he noticed the community there was very short stature, and they were eating clay, either because they were deficient in nutrients and trying to get them from the soil, or just not enough food, and they were eating the clay, and it was chelating and binding to zinc. When he ran blood work on everyone, they were all deficient. And as soon as he implemented zinc into their diet, the growth spurts started to happen. So the NIH gave him millions of dollars to do research over the course. This took place in the early 60s, and lots of research on it. Brilliant man. And during the pandemic, he got COVID. His doctor discovered that he had COVID. And what he had done was he used ivermectin and hydroxy with zinc. And his protocol was increase the zinc during the time of the antivirals because they're ionophoric, and it drives zinc into the cell. And in about 4 or 5 days, he was better. And that protocol has worked very, very well on many, many people, including myself. So speaking from experience. Zinc I've used over the years with my patients who have had smell and taste issues. Even pre-COVID, we know that zinc is involved with taste and smell. So there has to be something about the COVID virus that chelates and destroys these minerals. And that's why people get fatigued, because the B vitamins get hit, the minerals get hit, and there's just very little left in the fuel tank for energy for people. So I would be giving zinc to my patients if they just lost taste or smell, irrelevant to COVID, even pre-COVID, and their sense of smell and taste would come back very quickly. It's been very helpful during the pandemic as well. So not only is it involved with the immunology, is it antiviral properties, antibacterial, the prostate gland is very high in zinc. It's got antimicrobial properties. It needs it because of the proximity of the prostate gland to the colon, where there's lots of bacteria. But zinc reduces the anxiety because of the correlation to that NMDA receptor that I mentioned with magnesium before. So zinc and magnesium are linked to the NMDA receptor, very, very calming. Now B6 is involved. It's a cofactor that helps in the conversion of glutamic acid, or I should say glutamate, to GABA. And GABA is, it stands for gamma amino butyric acid. Butter is very high in butyric acid, which is excellent for us. So glutamate should spike in the morning. It's very excitatory. It helps you get up when your alarm clock goes off or your alarm goes off. And when the alarm goes off, you get up, you spring into action. That's glutamate. That's the accelerator. But glutamate in the presence of B6 at nighttime gets converted to GABA. GABA is the brake. So glutamate is the accelerator, GABA is the brake, and GABA is very calming. It helps you sleep at night. If you get up in the morning and you're still tired, then you're glutamate deficient and GABA dominant. If you go to bed at night and you're not tired and your mind is wired and working, then you're GABA deficient and glutamate dominant at night. We got to reverse those. So there's a problem there. So B6, very, very important. So is niacin, B3. B3 or niacin, when it's deficient, is involved with pellagra. And pellagra, they call it the 4Ds or 5Ds of pellagra. Dermatitis, diarrhea, dementia, depression, and also with depression comes anxiety. So we associate B3 deficiency with anxiety. Doses of niacin or B3 can enhance the effects of GABA, as does Valium or valerian root, right? So when people take Valium, Valium is relaxing because it's a GABA agonist. It enhances the effects of GABA, which is relaxation. That's why people, when they have anxiety and they have to go for, an MRI in a closed tube or something, and they get panicky, they take Valium for their calming effect. Vitamin D is involved, even carnitine. Carnitine, a lot of people have some genetic defects where they can't produce enough carnitine, which is a fat metabolizer. But carnitine, to make carnitine, you need methylation, which is B6, 9, and 12. And carnitine is produced, its precursor is trimethylglycine. Trimethyl, so you need 3 methyl groups. And if you're not methylating, then you have depression, neurotransmitter issues, weight loss issues, maybe because of carnitine, cleft palate, hair lip, infertility, migraines, anxiety, ADHD, autism. There's just a huge variety of things that can go wrong. So hopefully you have a little bit of a better understanding as to why consuming foods, especially proteins, are important, and eating a wide variety of foods of different colors and different sources to try and get such a versatile source of vitamins and minerals and even trace minerals into the body. Now, just because you're consuming protein and within your diet, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're digesting all of it. It's not you are what you eat, you are what you can assimilate, digest, and absorb. So if you're consuming protein, but you don't have stomach acid to break down the protein to get all of these amino acids, which are in black here, then there's a problem. If you're using antacids and you decrease stomach acid, there's a problem. If you're drinking alkaline water or pH water that's high pH, then you're destroying the stomach acid, you're destroying the microbiome in the stomach. You throw off the microbiome, your immune system becomes weaker. You increase the pH, which is more alkaline in your stomach, losing the acidity. You can't convert pepsinogen into pepsin. Remember, pepsinogen is the inactive enzyme that breaks down protein. Pepsin is the active enzyme. In order to do that, you need hydrochloric acid. You need about 2 pH or 2.3 pH in order to do that. So if you're drinking alkaline water or antacids, you're going to limit your ability to digest and break down protein. And then you're not going to get any of these amino acids or neurotransmitters. If you play around with the pH of the stomach and you raise it, you lose the acidity, you can't bind B12 to intrinsic factor. And if you don't bind B12 to intrinsic factor and there's a B12 issue, you can't methylate once again. Can't make neurotransmitters. Can't make myelin. Can't myelinate the brain or the spinal cord. Sounds like MS, multiple sclerosis, right? You play around with the pH and you increase the alkalinity, you can't absorb calcium and iron very well either. So now you're looking at different types of anemia, a pernicious anemia with B12 or iron deficiency anemia. So keep all that in mind, a lot of different factors. So let's say you have good protein, you have good stomach acid. Now the proteins are broken down into amino acids. If we look at this catecholamine pathway here, as long as you have zinc and B6 and some of these cofactors, you can get phenylalanine. Now, if you can get to phenylalanine with this enzyme and these cofactors, you get to tyrosine. Very important step to get to tyrosine, because tyrosine with 4 iodines gives you thyroxine, which is T4, thyroxine, for your thyroid function, for your metabolism. Then T4, some of it gets converted to T3 in the thyroid, but the majority of it gets converted to T3 by the liver, and that is selenium dependent. So getting to tyrosine not only makes thyroxine or T4, the T is for tyrosine, the 4 is for 4 iodine, so you get T4. From tyrosine, you can also make melanin for skin pigmentation. So people who don't make this conversion, phenylene to tyrosine, right, PKU, phenylketonuria, PKU, that pinprick to the heel when babies are born, they check for that. Then you start to get skin pigmentation issues, right? Because you don't have melanin. You have white patches and dark patches. That's why soda like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, 7-Up, and have the warning contains phenylketonuronics, which could be harmful to a certain portion of the population that may have this disease. But let's say you can get to tyrosine. Now, tyrosine gets converted to L-DOPA, as long as you have tyrosine hydrolase. Remember, anything that ends in ACE is an enzyme. And you have these cofactors, you get to L-DOPA. Well, if there's an L-DOPA deficiency, that's Parkinson's, right? When the midbrain can't produce it, that substantia nigra, the black substance, can't produce L-DOPA, then you start to get these moving tremors, Parkinson's disease, that mask-like look of expression. If you can get to L-DOPA, then L-DOPA gets converted to dopamine, and dopamine is that joy, kind of calming, but feel-good neurotransmitter. As long as you have vitamin C and copper, you can get to norepinephrine and then epinephrine, or noradrenaline and adrenaline, okay? If there's a dopamine issue, there's going to be like depression. And then if there's a noradrenaline issue, there's like anxiety issues for sure. And then with adrenaline or epinephrine issues, there's going to be sleeping issues. All of these are involved with, feelings, trying to feel good, feel balanced, healthy sleep to regenerate your tissues. There are some people who like to consume diet products like Diet Sprite, Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke, Diet Snapple. All of those contain aspartame, this artificial sweetener, which can down-regulate the conversion of phenylalanine to tyrosine. So a lot of people that use these diet products can get these hypoactive thyroids over a period of time. Be careful with Splenda and NutraSweet, anything in the pink packet or blue packet or yellow packet. It's like 5 to 10,000 times sweeter than sugar. Research is out that people who consume diet products, they gain weight. They don't lose weight. I've never seen a person on diet soda lose weight long term, ever. So be careful with those artificial sweeteners. Let's take a look at this pathway that I mentioned before. When you do have the stomach acids, you can break down the protein to amino acids. One of them is glutamine. Now, glutamine becomes glutamate as long as you have magnesium and manganese, these cofactors in this enzyme. Now, glutamate is the accelerator. It's the excitatory neurotransmitter that gets you up in the morning. But then at night, as long as you have B6 and zinc and these magnesium, then glutamate gets converted to GABA, gamma amino butyric acid. Remember that? But you need B6 for that conversion, as well as magnesium, C, and zinc. GABA helps you sleep at night. If you're glutamate dominant at night, your brain is wired. If you're GABA dominant in the morning, You're hitting the snooze button. You just want a little bit more sleep. Okay. If you take valerian root or Valium, that enhances GABA. It makes it more relaxed. They're GABA agonists. They increase its activity. Now look at this. Acetate, I think I mentioned this before, to acetyl-CoA plus choline. When you join them, you get acetylcholine. Important. Look at tryptophan. Tryptophan can get converted to 5-hydroxytryptophan, 5-HTP. Usually you can't buy this amino acid anymore. They used to be able to sell it. And I think years ago they found mold or something in a batch, and they stopped holding it and selling it in health food stores. But the nutraceutical companies caught on and said, all right, there's a way around the system. We can't sell tryptophan, which is in turkey, right? That's why people after Thanksgiving that eat turkey, they get tired. Grandma or Uncle Joe is on the couch and then they're out snoring because of that tryptophan. It makes them sleepy. Why? Because from tryptophan, you can get melatonin. All right, that's why people use melatonin to try and sleep at night. But they do sell 5-HTP. From 5-HTP, you can make serotonin, and then that can be converted to melatonin. But you do need SAMe, which is S-adenosylmethionine. Again, that's involved with the methylation cycle. So, you know, you may have never even heard of methylation until you met Dr. Lindner, and you hear me talking about it a lot because it's linked to so many things. And anywhere from 40 to 60% of the population are MTHFR positive. It is a methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase deficiency. If you don't have the enzyme, you can't produce 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate, which is a really important bioavailable form of folic acid. And that's why a lot of the great nutraceutical companies, they don't give you a supplement with folic acid because many people can't convert that to 5-MTHF. And if you can't convert it, that can result in cancers. There's a lot of research showing that people who use folic acid can develop cancer, and it's not the folic acid necessarily doing it. It's the fact that they can't convert that to 5-MTHF. When you look at my video on methylation, you'll see exactly what I'm referring to. So very important concept here. These amino acids, having protein, the acids in the stomach are important, maintaining that healthy 2.3 pH, not using antacids long-term, not drinking that alkaline water. I know people think if you can alkalinize the body, you'll decrease your cancer chances. And I've done a lot of research with this. Don't forget, I run a master's program at the University of Bridgeport in nutrition, and we research this quite a bit. I have my students research this quite a bit, and it's not healthy. Alkaline foods or alkaline forming foods have some benefit in helping to enhance some of the effects of some of the chemotherapy drugs, but you can't change an entire pH. You know who knows this better than anyone? Women. Women know this better than anyone. Why? Because you have a pH of your mouth, which is different than the pH of your skin, and which is different than the pH of your stomach, which is different than the vaginal pH. There's no way you can sync all of those environments up to be alkaline. You don't want that, not at all. So please keep that in mind. Okay, and let's take a look at the last. So in terms of nutrition, we talk about digestion, eat less crap. What do we mean by crap? Be careful with the sugary carbonated drinks, okay? Your body is trying to push out carbon dioxide, and you're consuming carbonated beverages, putting it in. Not that good. It does alter your pH. Be careful with the refined sugars. Not really good. Consuming too much sugar can increase your cholesterol, create lots of inflammation, is involved with diabetes, horrible for your blood vessels, horrible for your neurology. Be careful with the artificial sweeteners and artificial colors. If you want to taste an orange, don't eat an orange lollipop or an orange Skittle. Eat an orange. It only has one ingredient, orange, nothing else. Banana tastes like banana. That's all it is. There's no artificial ingredients to it. Be careful with processed foods. The only foods you really should be consuming are foods that were living at one point in time, not dead food. You put in dead food, you get a dead reaction. Put in living food, you get a live reaction. Simple rules. Eat more food, which is the fruits, organic lean proteins, omega-3s, those fatty acids, very healthy, and drink water. Whatever your body weight is, drink half of that in ounces. Don't just keep drinking, and not distilled water, no way. It's got to be mineral water. Distilled will pull out minerals from your body. Doesn't work that way. We shouldn't have pure distilled water in the body. It's toxic. Mineral water is what we require. Fruits and veggies, make sure you do your research on veggies. People just assume they're healthy and they're all healthy, and some are extremely toxic to people, especially some of the leafy stuff. You have to be careful. They can be very inflammatory, just as if when you eat animals or animal byproduct, right? When you eat an animal, if the animal knows it's going to die and it's not killed humanely, I know it sounds crazy to kill something humanely, but if it isn't and it knows it's going to die, just as a human being, if they know, they release these toxins throughout the body, and then eating the meat or the muscle or the organ of that animal could have detrimental effects on humans. Same thing with vegetables. Okay, you can eat the fruit, which is the healthy part of the plant, but eating the plant leaves for many people, I've seen from my patients, can be very dangerous. They release a lot of enzymes that can be harmful to humans, and they can bind and chelate a lot of minerals. So it's the right tool for the right job. There isn't just one diet that's the diet. I've had vegetarians that are very sick, and I've known carnivores that are very sick, and we just have them flip, and then magic can happen. So we all have different biochemical individuality, and getting in tune with your bodies and identifying what it can consume at certain stages of your life is important. Some people say, I was always able to eat this food and now I can't. Right. Well, you're not who you were a year or 2 years ago. We're changing, we're evolving. So be smart, look at your biochemistry, do thorough blood work. And important to know what you're allergic to, what you're immediately allergic to, and what you're delayed allergic to, right? Looking at delayed food testing. Many companies, functional medicine companies do that. Do your IgE testing and your IgG. You should do them both. Okay, hopefully you found that interesting and you learned quite a bit, and that's what it's all about. Always learning.